Hello, everybody. How's it going today? Wired here, and today we have some distressing and terrible news coming out of Warner Brothers studio saying they're going to recreate or create a new Lord of the Rings films that will honor the past, look to the future, and adhere to the strongest level of quality. And I shan't hold my breath. And literally, nobody is really too happy about this. Just going down here from Bounding Comics, kind of doubt it. Why even bother? Please, no. Seriously, no. The movies are perfect as they are. Look to the future is where they tell on themselves. Yeah, they're obviously looking towards their wallets. So, it's Saruman, man. Yeah, so as you can see, nobody is really too enthralled with this idea. Yeah, well, I'm sure they'll have a race swapped or some type of relationship between Sam and Frodo, or somebody will be trans or something like that. There's just no support for modern Hollywood, really at all, because everything they do is just a cash grab. They don't care about the legacy of Tolkien. There is nobody really around to defend that anymore since his son Christopher passed away a couple years ago, and really that's when this whole Rings of Power debauchery came out. I know he wasn't a super big fan of the original trilogy, and the original trilogy didn't really stick to the books. I know there was no Scorching of the Shire, so like the whole Part 6 was taken out. There's some small changes, like Tom Bombadil wasn't there, so they get out of the Shire a little faster. But as an adaptation, I think most fans will agree that Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy was amazing, and there's interviews with him saying, hey, we didn't want to put any of our own messaging into it. We wanted to put Tolkien's messaging into it. And I think they really did a great job with that. It's a shame Tolkien's not around to see it. I'm sure he would have been impressed by it. Although maybe not. Maybe he would have hated it. But besides the point, I think Peter Jackson did as good of a job as he could have. Then the Hobbit trilogy came out, and that I actually never saw that, but I heard that wasn't nearly as good. Probably they shouldn't have taken a book that was smaller than Fellowship and try to make 3 movies out of it. They should have just made one big 4-hour movie like they did with all the other ones, and it probably would have been fine. But that's Hollywood. That's the cash grabs. But anyway, let's get into this article here. New Lord of the Rings movie announced from original trilogy studio. New Line Cinema announces that they are teaming with Middle-earth Enterprises to create new films adapted from The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Which, again, why is that even necessary? We already have the movies. And the Lord of the Rings trilogy is great. I don't think you're going to be able to remake it any better. Maybe they want to do some expanded universe thing where we're going to go to Aragorn's story and then Legolas' story and then Gimli's. But again, that's all completely unnecessary. I don't know who has the rights to the Silmarillion, but there are a million stories in there you can draw from. I mean, that's really Tolkien's magnum opus. But I highly doubt they'll be I don't know, they're probably going to screw it up. Hopefully not as bad as Amazon did, but new Lord of the Rings films are in production from the same studio that created the landmark film trilogy, which ran from 2001 through 2003. The films, which brought the world of author J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth to live action, were followed by a trilogy based on his prequel novel, The Hobbit, 2014, from returning director Peter Jackson. The franchise's latest appearance on screen was in the hit Prime Video series, Rings of Power. I don't think I'd describe it as a hit, which premiered in August 2022 and has a season 2 impending. I don't know if that's true either. From what I've heard, rumors that they are actually looking into scrapping the entire first season of Rings of Power. I don't know if that's really possible, but they probably should just... They probably should just try to wipe it off the face of the planet. That's really how bad it was. If anyone's saw it, I watched, I think, the first 2 episodes of it, and then I watched other people roast it, which was better for me than actually sitting through the whole thing and watching it. I did watch through Velma, but that was only half hour, so like Rings of... And, Scooby-Doo I like, but I'm not as attached to it as, Lord of the Rings, so... Today, Warner Brothers Picture announced that New Line Entertainment and Middle-earth... Whoa, where did I go? Middle-earth Enterprise are collaborating on multiple feature films set in the Lord of the Rings universe. This multi-year agreement came after New Line acquired Middle-earth Enterprises. These films, which will be based on both The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, will be new projects in addition to the anime film The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, which new line is currently in production on as well. Again, I just don't see this being necessary, but you know. So far, nothing has been announced, but what exact stories these new Middle-earth films will be telling. While it's possible that they will be straightforward remakes, The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, Return of the King, and The Hobbit, that seems rather unlikely. However, it is telling that they announced new project will be based on The Lord of the Rings and The Rings would be based on The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit rather than Tolkien's posthumously published work, The Silmarillion, which provides additional Middle-earth mythology, which that's really what they should dive into is the Silmarillion, because there's endless stories in there from the first age, the second age. Yeah, we're focusing on one very, very small portion of this story here. They have endless stories to really go into, but I think if they do that, it's going to turn out like Rings of Powers, and they'll get really, bad reboot writers and completely ruin it. I also think one of the things is that you got to be concerned with is that sometimes you should just let a franchise burn out and go away. I think we see this a lot with like Marvel Phase 4 or with Disney Star Wars, and it's just every 6 months you're coming out with a new product and people don't have the time to even consume all these products. It's ridiculous. It's like one thing finishes up and 2 weeks later another thing is rolling. And it gets tiring, it gets old, it just bogs everything down. Maybe Phase 5 is going to be better for Marvel. I highly doubt it because I heard Ant-Man, the Quanto Mania thing, that opened terribly. That's like, it's got one of the worst openings ever. But, all right, let's finish this article real quick. Given the wealth of characters and locations present in the Lord of the Rings books, there are quite a few routes for any of the film to take. Excuse me. Even if the new stories choose not to focus on iconic characters like Frodo, Aragorn, Gandalf, or Legolas, there are plenty of other figures to focus on. This includes side characters from the films such as the Elf Lord Elrond, originally played by Hugo Weaving, which he did a great job, Eowyn, the niece of the King of Rohan. However, the new Lord of the Rings could also feature characters in the books who were not featured in the original films. This includes the notoriously absent character Tom Bombadil, a powerful, mysterious being who lives in the forest. Bombadil is an iconic figure who is present in neither the theatrical nor extended cuts of the original trilogy, and could be an interesting face to finally bring to the screen. Now, I don't know too much about Tom Bombadil, except for what I read in The Fellowship. I believe he's only in The Fellowship. I haven't read those books in a while. He's interesting, but I don't know if you're going to make a whole movie out of him or what you do. Like, I think it's just time to put this to bed. Or if you really want to do it, get competent writers and dig through the Silmarillion, and you can find a million good stories in there. There's no end to it, but of course we're going to go beat this dead horse and we're going to change things around, and there's all types of speculation about how there's going to be identity politics and gender identity, all stuff that Tolkien never wanted to put into his world. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen, but this news isn't good, and especially with the current state of Hollywood, I have really no hope for this. But anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. If you like the video, please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. If not, I appreciate you listening this long anyway, and I will catch you all in the next one. Later.